Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking at how to do a calculation for a medicated lip balm prescription. My name is Sukhpreet Gill. I am a fourth year student and part of the class of 2021 at California North State University College of Pharmacy. This video is part of my API rotation with Dr. Lay and will be compounded in the PRC 609 lab. So what we have to begin with is our prescription and what we will be working from. But first, before we start working on calculations, let's interpret what this actually means. So we will look at the prescription portion first. Here we can see that we will be compounding a medicated lip balm and that we need to dispense 4.5 grams to our patient. At the front, we can see the set of instructions saying we need to MFT, or mix and make. The SIG or directions state that we are to consult the patient to apply PRN or as needed, particularly in extremely dry, cold condition. The second part of the handout is our formula for compounding the prescription. It is important to understand what this means before proceeding with calculations. So to begin with, we know that even though our dispensed amount calls for 4.5 grams, we are going to be compounding a little bit extra, which is 8 grams, to make sure we compensate for any loss during compounding. Now moving on to what we have listed below. We saw in our prescription, the formula was listed as W over W, or weight over weight for all of our components. We can go ahead and use this to interpret the ratio of each component to our total. So 0.5% W over W we know is equal to 0.5 grams of camphor and 100 grams total lip balm. The same ratio applies to menthol. For carnauba wax, we have 10% W over W, which means there are 10 grams of carnauba wax or 100 grams total lip balm. The same ratio will apply to beeswax as well as petrolatum. For isopropyl myristate, we have 15% W over W, and that is 15 grams for 100 grams total lip balm. Castor oil is 100% W over W and also QS, which means that it is quantity sufficient. For the overall formula, that can be interpreted as how many grams we need to make up to 100 grams total lip balm. We know that we will be using these ratios to calculate our needed amounts of each component. So the first calculation we'll be doing is for camphor. We know that the ratio in the formula is 0.5% W over W, and that we will be solving for what we need to make our desired quantity of 8 grams of lip balm. As we went over previously, the 0.5% W over W means that there are 0.5 grams of camphor and 100 grams of total lip balm. We can set this equation equal to our desired ratio to solve for what we will need to measure out when we compound this prescription. We can cross multiply and get this equation, from which we then divide both sides by 100 grams to isolate X. Cancel out and get X is equal to 0.04 grams. Our next ingredient is menthol, which has the same weight over weight concentration as camphor. So our calculation is easy as it will be the same. Next, we will go ahead and calculate carnauba wax. Again, this calculation will be performed similarly to the two before. This time we get X is equal to 0.8 grams. For beeswax, the calculation again will be the same as we just performed for carnauba wax. Petrolatum is also calculated as we just did for the last two equations for carnauba wax and beeswax. Isopropyl myristate is 15% weight per weight, and we will again calculate in the similar fashion as before. And our answer comes out to be X is equal to 1.2 grams. Our last ingredient is castor oil. Now this one's a little tricky as it is listed as 100% weight per weight concentration and is also QS. So go ahead and calculate how much we need to make our desired quantity. Now remember, QS means quantity sufficient. That means enough of this ingredient will be used to make up what you need for your desired total quantity. We can calculate this since we know what the total amount we need is and what we already have from all the other components we calculated out. This means we have a desired quantity of 8 grams, and from that we subtract 0.04 grams, 0.04 grams, 0.8 grams, 0.8 grams, 0.8 grams, and 1.2 grams. This gives us our total of 4.32 grams of castor oil. And now finally, before we move forward to compounding the prescription, we want to make sure we have calculated everything we need and go over our answers one final time. So for 8 grams of lip balm, we need 0.04 grams of camphor, 0.04 grams of menthol, 0.8 grams of carnauba wax, 0.8 grams of beeswax, 0.8 grams of petrolatum, 1.2 grams of isopropyl myristate, and 4.32 grams of castor oil. To recap, today we went over how to calculate for a medicated lip balm compounding prescription. I hope this video was helpful and you feel comfortable and ready to perform these calculations on your own now. Thank you for your attention.